Welcome to the Lady Landlords podcast, where we empower women to gain financial independence through real estate investing. I'm your host, Becky Nova, founder of Lady Landlords. If you're ready to buy, manage, and grow your real estate portfolio, then let's get started.
Have you ever asked yourself, am I really ready to invest in real estate? If you are still hoping to get an answer to that question, this episode is right for you. Welcome to today's episode of the Lady Landlords podcast. We are going to be breaking down what being ready to buy a rental property actually looks like. I want to help women be able to get out of that space of fear and really make sure they have clarity and confidence to be able to move forward. I am so fortunate because these days I get to talk to lady landlords all day. We have over 50,000 women in our Facebook community, and I get to connect with them and I get to see what they are experiencing and what they're going through. And one trend that I notice is people either not sure if they have the funds ready to be able to invest. And then even if they do have funds, even if they do have a savings already ready to go or have funds in equity or retirement accounts, they do feel like very often they are stuck in analysis paralysis and they are stuck in a place of hesitation before going out and picking up either their first or their next rental property. I feel like for women, we tend to get into this space where we really like our preparation. Right? We really like to be ready. We really like to kind of think about all of the different things that could impact us. This also is compounded when we're starting to think about bills, the economy, family, all of these other decisions that have to go into this. And that overthinking can really become paralyzing. So what I want to be able to do today is cover 5 signs that will let you know that you are ready to be able to invest. And I just want to simply talk about a couple traps that we tend to get ourselves stuck in. And I want to make sure that we can avoid those. Okay. And this, I'm really hoping, is going to be able to take the guesswork out for you if you are ready to go out and buy either your first rental property or your next rental property. All right. So I'm going to go through now just these 5 signs that'll show that you're really ready to be able to invest. All right. So maybe you want to grab a pen quick. Otherwise, just kind of mentally check off, are these things that you have, or is this a place where you need to be able to do some improvement? Okay. First place you always want to think about is your emergency fund. Okay. I never, ever recommend that anybody goes out and spends every penny that they have in their bank account. I never suggest that people are going to go live on ramen to be able to make sure that they can invest in real estate. Okay. You really need to make sure that you have that for your actual life. Okay. Emergencies can happen, medical emergencies can happen, accidents can happen. There are so many different things that we want to make sure that you first are being able to take care of yourself and your family. So you do want to make sure to have that emergency savings set aside. A lot of times you want to look at that as what is a number that you're going to feel comfortable with. For example, a lot of people really like to have 6 months of what their expenses are put to the side so that way they can cover themselves. Other people are perfectly happy with this particular number. Hey, I got 10 grand. I got access on credit cards. I'll be okay if something comes up. But you want to make sure that you have that emergency fund set aside. That should be outside of what you plan on investing with. Okay. Same thing. If you're like, great, I have 10K, that's my fund, that's my emergency fund, I am good there. But now when I ask, well, how do you plan on funding your next deal? If you say, oh, I'm going to use that 10 grand. Well, you're erasing your emergency fund. Okay. That's going to put you in a bad position, not just from a life perspective, but also things will happen with your rentals. You're going to need to make sure that you do have the funds set aside to be able to take care of anything that pops up there. So you kind of need a life emergency fund, and you're going to need a rental emergency fund. Okay. Especially if you already own multiple properties, you definitely want to make sure that you have funds set aside for anything that comes up with the current properties as you're looking to buy the new property. Okay. So take a second, ask yourself right now, do I have my emergency fund ready to go? Okay. If not, you want to ask yourself, what does that look like? What do I need? Right? And then also, you might be in a space where right now you're working on what your budget should look like and getting your finances under control. All right. We have quite a few episodes. If you do need some support in building out that budget, start there. That's really where your focus should be. Okay. You don't need to worry about deal analysis right now. You don't have to worry about market analysis right now. Right now, if you're in that spot, you really need to be focused on if you have your emergency fund, okay, what your budget should look like. So you will have that emergency fund. If you're saying, yep, Becky, we can just check that off. I got my emergency fund. I have my investing funds ready to go. Then let's think about sign number 2. Sign number 2 is understanding what your financial path is going to look like. Okay. Maybe you are already pre-approved for a traditional loan or a conventional loan. Maybe you plan on using creative financing and you've already spoken to a DSCR lender, a hard money lender. Maybe you have a private lender already lined up. If you have financing coming from those different spaces, that is also going to be incredibly important for you to know. You want to think about where that funding is coming from. Once again, if you don't have an emergency fund set aside, it's going to be very, very difficult to be able to get approved for a conventional mortgage or for really any type of traditional financing. They're going to want to see your DTI, your debt to income ratio. Also, if you are even going with some of those more creative strategies, same thing. If you're talking to a private lender being a person that you know that is somehow within your sphere, that is not a business like a hard money lender or an asset-based lender. But if you're talking to somebody personally, they're going to want to probably see some skin in the game from you. They're going to want to see you putting in some monies there. Or they're also going to want to make sure they find you financially responsible. If you're talking about how much debt you have, how you're behind on your bills, how your electric might get cut off, they're probably not going to see you as the best person to be able to invest their funds with for your deal. Okay. So we need to start thinking about that financial path of how you're going to move forward. Okay. I gave this away a couple weeks ago in our Lady Landlords Facebook group. If you have not gotten our financial cheat sheet, I literally break down like 13 different ways to get financing for your properties. And it all depends on what your strategy looks like. If you still need that, just write the word cheat down in the comments and I'll make sure to send that over to you. Okay. So if you write that either on YouTube or wherever you're listening to podcasts, don't worry, I'll make sure to get you over that cheat sheet. It was actually what I used when I first started buying rental properties, because I would talk to people and they would talk about this type of financing or that type of financing. And I was like, how do I know which one is the right one to be able to use? Well, this is what I put together and I've been using for the past 7 years. Happy to share it with anybody else that wants it. Okay. So understanding your financial path and where you're going from there, that's sign number 2 that you might be ready to invest. Okay. Number 3, you're understanding your numbers. Okay. We see in Lady Landlords all day long posts about, well, does this look like a deal? Is this a good deal? Is this a bad deal? We don't know those things, right? And we need to get clear at what the answer to that question is before you go out and be able to buy. Okay. There are a ton of different numbers. There are a ton of acronyms that we really use in real estate investing. We need to understand how our numbers work so we can decide for ourselves if something's going to be a good deal or not. Okay. And what's a good deal for me is going to be different than a good deal for you, which is going to be different than a good deal for every single other Lady Landlords out of the 50,000 plus that we have in our community. You need to at least understand your basic numbers. So that way, before you go out there, you can at least be able to say, is it the cash flow I'm looking for? Is it the appreciation I'm looking for? How much in cash flow should I expect? Right? We want to make sure that our expectations are appropriate. We can't go out and say, great, I'm going to buy a property that's going to cost me 50 grand. And I really expect it to bring me in, $5,000 a month, right? That's probably not very realistic. We need to get very clear on what it is that we are looking for, and understanding at least your basic numbers is going to be important. Okay. Now, sign number 4 is starting to really understand how to do a market research and property analysis. Okay. Those 2 spaces are going to be incredibly popular. We use this term often in Lady Landlords called an accidental landlord. I was really kind of an accidental landlord. I ended up buying a multifamily. I was actually looking to decrease my cost of living in New York State. Living in the city at the point in time, it's very expensive for properties there. It's very expensive to even live in a rental. And I really needed to decrease my cost of living. Buying a multifamily where I can have another unit bring in some income was a great way to kind of create that balance and a great way for me to be able to move forward with that property. I didn't really set out to be a landlord. I just happened to fall in love with it, and hence where we are today. But a lot of other people have also become accidental landlords because they either inherited a property or maybe they moved in with a partner and then rented out what was their primary residence. All of those different factors are ways that you can be that accidental landlord. If you are really looking to build a portfolio, if you are really looking to retire early, replace your income, make real money with this, we need to start getting our way out of being that accidental. Oh, I fell into this. Oh, whoops, I accidentally picked up a property. I have no idea what it is. I have no idea if it's a good deal. No, we need to be an intentional landlord. We need to be able to say, hey, this is the right property with the right strategy, with the right financing for our portfolio. And that's a very, very different space to be in. So for sign number 4 that you're ready to invest is that you are in a place where you are starting to feel comfortable saying, yeah, this is the right market for me. Am I investing in my backyard and staying local? Am I investing out of state? Am I investing out of the country? How do I know what the right market is for me? Does this fit with my budget? Does this fit with my financial strategy? Does this fit with my lifestyle? Managing in different places can completely change what your lifestyle is going to look like. And we need to really take that into consideration. And then that deal analysis. We should not be buying rentals and spending tens of thousands of dollars on things if we don't know, once again, our numbers. Okay. Then sign number 5 is if you have talked to at least one real estate professional, okay, you need to think about your team. Have you interviewed lenders? Have you interviewed realtors if you're using one? Interviewed wholesalers if you're using one? Are you planning on working with a mentor to kind of help take you through some of those first couple deals? Have you had those conversations with others around you? Do you know your contractor? All of those different things need to be put in place because can you imagine if you go out there, find that deal, and you now know in steps 3 and 4, you're like, yes, this is the right deal for me. And then now all of a sudden realize you don't have the other pieces in place. You have to close quick on some of these deals. We had a member, Tracy, actually in our inner circle, she was given a week to close. Well, she was like, I'm buying out of state. I have to put together financing. I have to put together contractor. I have to get all these other pieces in place. That was a rush. Luckily for her, she had those pieces in place. She had her team and had her core team, which was able to help her find those other pieces that she needed to be able to move forward. So you really want to make sure that you at least have your core structure of your team. We do have other episodes here on the Lady Landlords podcast all about building your team. So if you need to go back and take a listen to that, go take a moment and go grab those episodes. Okay. So those are really kind of your 5 signs. Now let's talk about where I see a lot of women get stuck. Okay. One of the most popular places, we've all heard that term, analysis paralysis. Okay. What this is this is a space of overthinking. And this is a place where we keep convincing ourselves that we need to have everything absolutely perfect in order to really execute. Okay. And I see this a lot. I see this not just in real estate. I see this also in business development. I see this just in the way that people function in life. I see this in relationships where people are waiting for everything in life to absolutely line up, stars be perfect, everything like that in order to take an action being forward. Right. And I got to be honest, we're never going to be in that place. There is no such thing as perfectionism in life. Right. It's just not. There's always going to be bumps in the road. There's always going to be things that are going to pop up. And we need to really be able to get to a spot where we can say, hey, this is close to being perfect. Okay. The second place that I feel like I see a lot of people getting stuck is in the idea of, oh, well, as soon as I learn this, as soon as I can go understand this, as soon as I understand this concept. And what happens, what I think is really interesting about this, is the people that say, hey, I need to learn more. They go out, they listen to every podcast, they join every single webinar, but year after year after year, they've never actually taken action. Okay. The problem is you don't need more information. You need an ability to make the right, confident decisions for you. That's where that difference is. Okay. There is no reason. I've had people that have told me, like, oh, I have to go figure out how to create my LLC. And I need to get that done first. And I'm like, listen, you don't even know if you need an LLC right now. Why are we spending money on that? Why are we spending time? Why are we spending energy in that space? You don't own any property. You don't know the consequences of having that LLC. You don't even know what your strategy or your plan is with your portfolio. Why are we focusing on these ancillary items, right? I think it's very important to make sure that we have that plan in place, that we get that focus, and then we're able to make decisions based on what we personally are looking to accomplish, okay? Strategy is something that is kind of everything within real estate. Strategy is something that we need to be able to have put in place before we can go out and move forward. If you need help putting together strategy, I am happy to talk to you and kind of help you build out what that strategy plan looks like. Put the word strategy down in the comments and show notes here for me, and I'll make sure to reach out and we can kind of talk through what that looks like. The third place that I see a lot of women get stuck is having that fear. That is one of the most popular words that I hear is fear. They are afraid to lose money. They are afraid to make the wrong decision. They're afraid they're going to lose everything. They're afraid they're going to make mistakes. They're afraid they're going to make decisions that are going to be a bad move, right? Listen, there are absolutely things that we still need to be able to learn and plan for before we should jump in, right? And that was really those 5 signs that I went through earlier in this episode here. But that fear now, we have to make that decision of saying, am I willing, ready and able to be able to move forward, right? There are things, like I said, that are always going to pop up. There are things that are going to be new. I just closed on my 17th property, and we were down to the wire of the closing table because a new issue that I've never experienced before popped up. Okay. Those were things that were really frustrating. The stress I really wanted, not the stress I needed at all. But by being able to say, this is kind of a learning experience. Now I know this is something to look into for the next time I buy property. But going through and saying, how do we solve this problem? Relying on my team members, relying on my experts, relying on the people around me to say, what can we do to solve this specific problem and minimize any type of issues that came up from this happening is incredibly important. There are always going to be things that we cannot predict. So the choice that you have to make is, am I going to let fear get in my way and stop me from going after the goals that I want to have thanks to real estate? And if the answer is yes, then this is not the industry for you. And that's also okay. Or 2, yeah, maybe I'm still have some fear. Maybe I'm still scared, but I am willing to work through it. I am willing to learn. I am willing to move forward, and I am willing to grow. That is a very different space. Okay. And you need to ask yourself that question of which side you're going to be on. Okay. Because to be honest, it's the people on that side that get stuck in fear that are not successful in this business, that don't move forward. They are the people year after year after year that they have the money ready to go. They have the skill. They have the smarts. I talk to people all the time that know so much about real estate, but yet they don't own anything. Or they own 1 or 2 things and they've made honestly a ton of mistakes. They're losing money and they're just sitting there with it, losing money month after month after month, having to stay at their office job to pay for the mistakes because they just can't own up and say, hey, listen, I need some help. I need some support. And I don't want to have that happen to you. So think about, are you willing to say, hey, this might be scary. This is going to be new. This is going to be challenging. But you know what? I am ready to overcome that. Or no, I'm not. I want to stay in my space of fear. And if so, that's okay. But let's own that decision. Because when we own that, we have the ability to reflect back on why. Why am I comfortable staying comfortable? Why am I comfortable staying in fear? Why am I comfortable not going after the things that I want in my life? And honestly, that's where there's an opportunity for change. That's where there's an opportunity for growth. Or at least you know that that's what your future will look like. Okay. So just going to go back really quick over my little go time checklist here. Listen to these items here, check them off mentally in your brain, and this should be able to help you decide if you are ready to go out and buy your next property. First off, emergency fund put in place. Do we have those funds aside somewhere? 2, do we understand what our funding plan is going to be? How are we financing our next deal? 3, do we understand what we're actually looking for, right? What type of deal do we want? What does that piece look like? Our target market, our property type, of the cash flow that we're looking for. Do we know what we're actually targeting? Number 4 is, do you have some support? It could be a realtor, it could be a mentor, it could be a community that you're plugged into like Lady Landlords. And then 5, how confident do we feel running our numbers? If we are doing a deal analysis, are you saying, yep, I'm a 10, I'm a deal analyzing machine? Or are you saying like deal analysis, I don't even know how to get started with that, okay? If you have at least 4 or 5 of those, let's get moving, okay? And that's kind of the point of getting over that perfection analysis paralysis too, okay? Done is better than waiting to perfect, okay? If you can say confidently, you know what, I'm a good 80%, I'm a good B student here, you can get moving, okay? And that's where you have enough information to still make confident, clear decisions as you move forward, okay? Being prepared is going to be incredibly important within real estate. But we also have to understand where that tipping point is to say, hey, I am actually stuck in that fear and I need to evaluate why that is. Or saying, nope, I can overcome this. I can get out of my own way. I can get the support that I need. And that's how I can move forward. Okay. If that's something that I can help with, if you want to talk through some of these points with me, I'm always, like I said, I'm an open book. I'm happy to chat with Lady Landlords. We also do have a program that is available to you where we actually build out your strategy for you and get really clear on your market, on your deal analysis, what you should be finding and what financing you should use. So if that is something that you would like to have a conversation about, that is a free call to talk about that. You can do that and just write the word roadmap down in the comments and we'll make sure to be able to reach out to you. Or my email is always in the show notes if you ever want to send me an email and ask some questions. Okay. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining me today for this episode of the Lady Landlords podcast. Do take a second to make sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. What reviews do is it helps other women be able to find us and get the support that they need. So if you have a simple 2 minutes today, do something great to help out your fellow lady landlords and leave us a 5-star review. Thank you so much. And we will see you next Tuesday for the next episode of the Lady Landlords podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Lady Landlords podcast. If you're feeling stuck in your real estate investing journey, visit lady-landlords.com to book a 15-minute orientation call with me and see if you're ready to join our mentorship program. Or you can subscribe to our newsletter and join our Facebook group for exclusive real estate investing tips and offers. Invest with confidence. Become a Lady Landlord today.